Hi, I'm Kathleen Black, the CEO and founder of Kathleen Black International. And it's been at the point of recording this 15 years full time working with top producers to help them scale into teams and working with teams to help them become more efficient, productive, and profitable in high performance cultures. I don't do it alone. We have an entire team of coaches who support team leaders. And our team coaching program, 80% of our clients are top 1% nationally. So I'm going to take you through today a predictable journey when it comes to expanding your team, because this is a very rare niche when it comes into, the expertise of team building. And often it can feel challenging or difficult because when we haven't driven a path before or walked a path before, navigating it can feel hard. We've all been where we walked somewhere and we felt like it took forever, but when we walked home, it was super fast because we had already gone that way before and our brains recognize it. It's a little more comfortable, a little bit more relaxing. So today, my goal is to be able to be your Sherpa, to give you a sense of what team building can look like when you have a proven and predictable path. Every year, we support tens of thousands of businesses with our coaching and our affiliations and whatnot. So this is very vetted. It's data driven. So I'm not giving you a theory. I'm giving you a path that we've walked successfully so that you can look at what makes sense for you if you're considering expanding your team. So let's talk about team growth. Let's talk about levels of scale. And I'll certainly give you some examples as we go of different teams who have scaled to different levels. Now, one of the big misconceptions when you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to go from a solopreneur, doing it all, into a team is that it's just one more step when it's not. The reality is that there's a step in the middle between being a solopreneur and being a teampreneur that's actually the most important. And that step is when we build our infrastructure, as I like to call it. That's where we build our foundation, our systems, so that we're expanding a business to be more calm and we enjoy our life and our lifestyle running that business, as well as making life and lifestyle better for the people who are working with us. So today, a lot of these levels of scale are really going to focus on what you need to put in place to successfully continue to expand. To have the ultimate in success and freedom, you must build a world-class team. This is a reality. Our industries become more and more sophisticated, working with, iconic leaders, CEOs, high net worth individuals. They're looking for lifestyle, right? They're looking for freedom. And the reality is you don't just get that with a team. You get that with a world-class team. The majority of the population is waiting, thinking, somebody will show up and want to join their business, and that's how they'll expand. But it's actually the top 1% mentality that creates the growth in their business. They do it strategically, they do it intentionally. Sometimes they do it because they're just so busy and they need some help. So some of you might be listening to this and saying, well, I think I need a team because the busier I get, even though I tell myself I'm better at getting everything done, my standard of service is actually diminishing the busier and busier I get year after year. And for most people, that'll continue to happen until it actually caps you, until you get to the point where you cannot do more business, nor do you want to, because typically you're frantic and you run off your feet. So that's where we can have the decision to, have a Band-Aid and bring in some help. But I would say to really consider that the biggest places that businesses hemorrhage money and energy and resources are hiring the wrong people, hiring people and assuming they know what to do without their proper training. And third, not having enough support for you as a team leader, as a CEO. Because if you're burnt out and you're exhausted, the business cannot expand. It relies on you for that direction moving forward. So I'm hoping that by starting this way, I'm having you start to think about, how can I build a world-class team instead of just building, a group or a team or kind of something more of a loose business model. Our mission is very specific. We help leaders in increasing the clarity and confidence to implement the most efficient, productive, and profitable team expansion systems in the world. We work with clients to house their best-in-class KBCC tools, built on the principles of a high performance environment powered by purpose, passion, and guiding principles while consistently achieving top 1% results, which is presently worth billions in additional sales volume, but also in millions and millions in additional commission from growth from implementing these systems specifically. So what is our strategy? We focus on and rely on an ultimate expansion strategy to give us a step-by-step guide. Success at the end of the day comes down to clarity of thinking and wanting to grow without avoidable mistakes and unnecessary risk, because that can take your business under or really reduce what you were already able to do as a solopreneur. So here's an example of the ultimate expansion strategy. There are 8 specific steps, and they're designed to help you leave that overworked underachiever concept that we see so much in multiple sales and service industries, and instead model your business off after top 1% producers. So we won't go through all of these steps today because we don't have the time, but each of them has systems and a purpose to protect you and protect your business. This is also a very predictable and proven strategy that we've been working with for 15 years. The strategy is documented in this book. So if you don't have the Top 1% Life book yet, you can get it at any major bookstore, but you also can get it in Audible, and Audible has some extra resources. Now, the book is going to take you through each one of these 8 steps, and it has a full chapter on each of them. So if you're looking for some support, I recommend to start there. Even listening to the Audible earlier on, you'll start to prep your brain for that expansion that you want in your business later. We want to shift from a top producer to a team leader, and they're really different job descriptions. They're 2 completely separate roles in the business. They're typically paid differently, and I would encourage you to think about that, because as you move into being a team leader, there can be, as you're building, long hours, there can be extra calls, there can be, problems and firefighting to put out. So at some point, it's very important that you have a plan where you'll be compensated for being a team leader. I don't know too many people in a paid work environment who are going to stay in a role and do it at top level when they're not being compensated for it. I mean, we're not talking about volunteer philanthropy. We're talking about your business here. So you want to make sure that you're able to shift. And that means you understand the job description and you understand how and when you're going to get paid for fulfilling that job description. A business owner and a leadership role, which a team leader is, are 2 different entities. So we have salespeople, we have leadership, and we have ownership. These are 3 different entities that you want to consider as you're expanding your business. A top producer, of course, works in the business. They're compensated for their portion of the trade, depending how that's set up. And a team leader works on the business. It's compensated as a direct result of their success in training, coaching, and inspiring production growth in real estate in their team members, or investing and leveraging other people who can help them do that. Now, here is our definition that we use for a high-performing team, because I want to encourage you. We don't just want a team, again. We want a high-performing team. We want a high-performance team, an independent, stable, role-defined group of individuals who share responsibility, mutual trust, and values while having a strong leadership and clear focus on a common goal. Now, I like to call it toolboxes, and I'm going to explain what you're looking at in a second. But when you work with agents long enough, right, to the extent that we have, you start to realize that depending on your production level, you probably have a specific toolbox. And what I mean by that is an agent who's making $100,000 a year has a certain number of tools in that toolbox, right? They might have a little bit of the mindset that they need, maybe they had a strong network, or maybe they understood, online lead conversion, whatever it is, they have a few little tools. An agent who's making $250,000 has more tools. An agent who's making $500,000 typically isn't invested in things like language patterns that work to communicate value consistently. A strong language pattern can be 7 times more powerful in taking leads to appointments booked. What does this have to do with teams? If we want to have a strong team, we not only need a toolbox on a team level, but we need to have a training and performance and accountability that requires all of the agents on our team to have a strong toolbox. The majority of agents in the industry are not productive. To think that we're going to recruit people and bring them on the team and they're naturally going to be productive is going to cost you a lot of money, time, and heartache. And that's not what we want. So any team that has 10x their growth, so grown their business times 10 or 20x their growth, has had specific tools. So these are a list of systems. Number one, they understand an expansion model, right? We use the ultimate expansion model. So they had a proven path. Number two, they knew their vision and values. Number three, they had a very specific client result process. So they had training for leads and buyers and sellers. They had a system to understand how to leverage. We use the Genius method, and it allows you to help everybody within your team to leverage. And you don't just do it once, it's something you do quarterly to ensure you're not keeping things on your plate that are actually holding the business back. Hiring system, a team compensation system that allows you to have enough earnings, net earnings back to the team to reinvest for growth. An economic model, a budget. Our economic model will have our team leaders between 28 to 32% profit. Now, that as owners, sorry, you let me use my own language, as owners, 27 to 32% profit. Now, that's after being paid as a team leader and coming up with the structure to pay team agents in a way that you can support them with more leverage than they would get on their own. Performance matrix is a high performance model, a high performance ecosystem, recruitment system, onboarding. If we can get the same amount of data in the first 6 months of bringing an agent onto the team as it typically takes us 5 years for the average agent to find out if they're going to be a producer, if they have the skill set, then why wouldn't we do that? We have an onboarding program that allows us within the first 6 weeks to get 80% of the information we need, whether this is predictably going to be a performing recruit. Within the first 6 months, we get the other 20% of that data, which is really important because statistically, again, if agents are selling 2 deals a year or 4 or 6, it's going to take us, 4, 5, 6 years to get enough data to see if this is someone who can predictably convert were they to get opportunities. So we have so you need an onboarding system to help you do that. Tracking and accountability, ongoing coaching, of course, marketing matrix, what pillars to focus on in your marketing and lead generation, and priority focus, how to hyper prioritize with your time. I've never met a high achiever who didn't have that. So these are some core things. If you're saying, how do I build a team and have massive growth? These are core things that you want to have in your core systems that you want to have within your toolbox. Now, let's talk about the levels of expansion. Working on your business as a team leader will allow you to multiply your sales productively tenfold by leveraging other people's strengths, right? This is a positive thing to do. Leverage, the definition we're going to use today, is the use of tools and resources to do more with less effort, time, and money without sacrificing any standards of service, right? So in fact, we want to elevate the standards of service. So here's level one. We're most of us familiar with this in the real estate industry. This is a single agent. We're doing all the things. And in the past 10 years, it's only become more cumbersome, right? For solo agents, you are an administrator, an operations person, a marketing specialist, a therapist, right? You're a psychologist, you're an inside salesperson, you're a salesperson, you're so many things. You're a negotiator. We could go on and on and on. You're a CRM specialist, right? We have to understand so much tech and different marketing and communication. The number of different specialties within the real estate industry is mind-blowing. It's only going to become harder as teams continue to excel. They're moving all of these pieces to people who specialize in them. And that's hard to compete with. So the single agents had it, it's become more and more difficult. It's become more of a struggle. Now, the first step of leverage here is level 2 of team expansion. And this is where typically, not always, but typically, we're moving the unlicensed tasks, or at least most of them, over to someone who's going to support, like an unlicensed assistant or an administrator. That makes sense if you know you're going to grow out a bigger team. If you want a smaller team that's just supporting you. You don't really want other agents, creating marketing or running with clients. You don't really want other people to be independent of you on the team. Then you might take another path. But if you want to have a bit more freedom and lifestyle, you want to be able to move into a team leader role, then this transition is going to make sense first, because it's going to force you to solidify your operations and your administrative side of the business. And that's a huge part of your value proposition before you recruit. B, it's a huge part of the journey that's going to prevent you from being in the chaos where you're wasting your time, energy, and money, and you have clients who are not happy because they're moving to agents in an environment that is unmanageable. It's chaotic. So we want to stabilize some parts of the business before we expand. So this is an example of different areas of leverage within the team. So we've added the first, obviously, in the middle, which is administration. The third level is when we actually start to recruit. So there's systems behind every one of these steps. When we brought on that administrator, ideally you had a hiring system. So it helped you identify, is this person likely a good fit? Then when you bring them on, you're going to need to have an SOP, a standard operating procedure. You're going to need to have checklists. You're going to need to make sure your CRM's in place, or you're going to use somebody to help train that administrator that you brought on, and you're going to invest in tools and systems to train them. Because if not, you're relying on them to build this or to understand. And again, that's one of the major ways to hemorrhage money in the business. We don't want to assume that you're going to hire somebody who's going to know how to elevate your business or how to structure your operations to be able to expand later. There's not too many administrators who are going to have experience in that. So at this point now, we're bringing on licensed field representatives or salespeople, right? Partners in the business, not ownership partners, but partners with our clients. This is where we look at having a recruitment system, an onboarding system. Definitely, we've looked at compensation within a budget, within an economic model, and we've looked at team agreements to protect you, protect the business, and protect your standards of service, 100%. Now, there's 5 key areas of leadership focus we want to think about, because now we have an administrator and we have other licensed sales agents. So the 5 are: number 1, vision. Need to be clear on our vision. It's going to help us with our people management. Number 2, performance. My mandate or baseline is to have 10 times the production as the average board performance. So if the board is doing 2 deals on average a year, then we would like to do 20 deals on average a year for our agents. That gives us a baseline minimum to work towards. And opportunity lead generation, always need to be looking at that. Leverage and expansion. Average is the enemy of excellence. When we're looking at leverage and expansion, you need a model to get clarity on what are you good at? What makes the business money? What should you be doing? Because often team leaders hire and hire, and they're still doing everything. They're just doing it with all these other people, and they're burnt out and they're exhausted. So we need a model to get clarity to make sure that you're investing when you're leveraging, not actually taking a toll on yourself and the business. And finally, return on investment and data. We want to aim to have a 16% higher profitability than the average team model, just the average, like a 50-50. And we need to have a plan to make that work. So 5 things we want to have our finger on the dial. The next thing I encourage you to do before, in order to prepare to recruit, is have clarity on everything that an agent needs support on to be productive within your team. Because one of the 5 that's not, or the 6 that's not there in your top 5 things is culture. Right? And culture is going to come from your vision, your mission, your values, the way you lead the team until it's big enough to have its own, working values that we hope are positive. But we need to understand what areas do we need to support agents in to make sure that we're productive and happy and retaining. Now, here's an example of some things that if an agent, a sales agent or a partner or maybe a buyer's agent for you could leverage from the team. You need to know this. What's your value proposition? I highly recommend you as a leader to brainstorm all the value that an agent gets by coming into your environment, and then brainstorm or write down how much it would cost them to have those things on their own. That gives you perspective as a team leader. So marketing, admin, training, coaching, personal development. This is a very small, basic snapshot compared to how sophisticated the value offering is for some teams. And I've predicted for many years that it's going to become more and more of a challenge for teams, because some teams are recruiting without any real value proposition. They might say they do, but they don't deliver on any of it. And then you've got teams who offer a lot, and they're going to be challenged to help potential recruits discern a strong team, a good team choice from not. And that changes for every recruit, but it's something you need to get really, really good at if you're going to be expanding your team. So I recommend you take this quite seriously. Now, level 4 is when we call lifestyle team growth, because at this point, you've got more support now, right? You've got 4 licensed agents now, and you're moved in exclusively to a team leader position. You now have added an inside sales agent or lead conversion representative, as we call it. You have an unlicensed assistant, and you have another support person. That might be a contract coordinator, a listing coordinator. It could be marketing support. It could be a director of operations. There's lots of different ways that second support person comes in, but you have more help now. So hopefully part of that is some management support that's relieving a little bit more of your time so you can focus on projects to drive the business forward. Now, we have unlicensed support, we have licensed sales agents who are out with clients, and we have a lead conversion partner or an ISA at this point. Now we're going to go to level 5. Level 5 is a little bit more complex because at this point we've grown a lot. So there's a lot of team leaders who don't want to go beyond level 4, and some who technically aren't even there because they don't want inside sales agents. So they stay at level 3. So we'll go through these more complex ones a little bit quicker because most of the time, not everyone wants to get here, right? So at this point, I think we have 8 agents. Yep, we have 8 agents working with us. We have a lead conversion department now. So an inside sales department. Now, what is an inside sales agent? It's somebody who is on the phone calling potential leads all day long to book face-to-face appointments for the sales agents. Now, some inside sales cold call or circle dial, or they deal with like social media responses and things like that. The most productive inside sales agents, they have a structure and they work with leads coming into the team. So I can tell you that unequivocally, having seen, the budgets and the tracking and the data of thousands of businesses, and having built with clients ISA departments literally step by step from scratch that will do 300 deals just from the booked appointments that they book in their department for the agents. So it's very, very clear what constitutes the most successful ISA structures. However, it takes some time and patience and training to get those into place, because at this point, not only do the ISAs need to be really good at booking appointments, but the agents need to be systematic and structured in taking that handoff from them, right? They're showing up for a buyer consultation or a seller consultation with someone they've never spoken to before. That requires some training and support. So now, not only do we have the team leader, now you have a team manager, right? So I was saying even in level 4, you might have some director of ops or some management support, which you're going to need as you're growing. Now we've got a listing coordinator and a deal coordinator. And we've got a lead coordinator or somebody who's watching over, right, our tracking and our conversion for our ISAs and for our agents. And sometimes this person's also marketing support. Just to let you know, this role can change quite a bit over the years. This can be somebody nurturing the database. It can be a database manager as well. So things are changing, and you're getting more freedom because when you have a team leader and a team manager, you've got the driver archetype and the manager archetype, right? So you don't have to be two different personality styles essentially to succeed. You can hire the opposite. So if you're more of a manager, you can bring in a driver to support you. You don't have to call them team leader. There can be another role there, but you would bring them in. If you're more of the driver as a team leader, now you're going to bring in that manager to support you. And I'd say most leaders aren't sure which they are until the business gets bigger. I used to really happily manage and lead. And then the business got to a certain point where I was like, oh my goodness, like the management is exhausting me. Like I'm a self-starter and I needed more management support because I wasn't, it just wasn't natural to me to manage on such a high level. I prefer to be in the vision and driving forward the business and the energy and all that kind of stuff. So you might know later as the business grows. Level 6 is leadership group. So this is where we start to see a little bit of team within team. Now, just to give you some of the power, we're going to go back for a second. Moving clients, like I know Rachel Harsbort, we did a case study this year for her growing her business. I mean, she's a phenomenal leader. Moving into a place where she had an admin, an assistant trained and in place, and then going to the first stages of recruitment, we were able to help her have a 400% growth in her business. That's massive just within a couple of years because she had the path for how to do this, right? So it's not just bringing these people in, it's what do they do? How do we train them? What's the structure? So again, we want to avoid chaos. That's what we want to avoid. And the more moving pieces you have in a business, the more complexity, the more likelihood that things can go wrong. Right. I know when Mike Heddle worked with us for years, we stayed at level 4. Just this past year, he's looking at bringing in an ISA, move up to level 4 he was at level 3, move up to level 4 in his business. But initially, going from himself and an admin and one agent to building out more of a team, he was able to double his business within an 18-month framework and now has continued to slowly build and grow one of the most profitable businesses within his brand, right? In the company, in the country, percentage wise, which is quite phenomenal. When we look at going back, to leadership group, there's different ways to do this. Again, this is something you want to customize. I've seen a lot of different team within team models. Most of the time we do it too soon. We have agents who aren't stable enough in the business or are not productive enough, and they're kind of wanting more leverage or wanting more opportunity, but they haven't had enough time, right, to have enough skin in the game. They do it too soon, and that's a mistake because it costs them production and it costs the team overall, and usually it blows up. So we lose good people. So I recommend that you really have a structure. Leadership group here is actually about leverage. So this model is, when the agent has had a specific minimum amount of deals per month for 4 months or 5 months, or maybe it's 6 in your team, and then they maintain it. So let's say, for example, for 6 months, they did 4 deals a month. And then they got into the leadership group and they had to maintain 3 deals a month. Now somebody is supporting them, right? Supporting them with booking home inspections or attending home inspections and revisits or sending amendments and waivers and all these kind of things. So that can free up a lot of time, allowing the agents to be able to produce more or spend more time with their family. So the leverage principle just kind of moves down throughout the entire culture because everybody on the left of the middle and left of this whole org chart are all lifting up our licensed sales agents to make it easier for them to sell more, to do a better job, right? And less time and less hassle. End of the day, that's what people want. So let's go on to level 7. This is an exit or residual income level. Okay, so we've done a lot of this work with helping team leaders, get ready for succession planning or prepare to sell part of the business, or maybe they don't want to get rid of the business, but they don't want to actively work in it anymore. So remember I said you have sales agents, you have team leaders who have a role and a salary, and then you have owners. And that's really important at this 7th level because we're now dividing all 3. We have separate sales agents, separate team leader, separate team manager, And you, as the team owner at this point, would actually maybe be supporting with vision, and certainly you'd be supporting by looking at data and analytics and profitability, but you wouldn't be having an active job description in the team anymore. Now, you can think to some businesses like Stacey Falquin, in Halifax has sold a percentage, certain shares right within the team over to another team member. So they're putting that residual income factor in place so that as an owner, Stacey has the ability to move more and more and more out of the team leader positioning, which is really exciting, right? To think that this business could get you all the way there by building a successful and profitable team. Level 8, teams within teams. This is now not just the leadership group, right? I just want to show you guys this. The leadership group here is leverage, leveraging off unlicensed and even some licensed duties to free up the time of consistent top producers. Level 7 is where we start to get into residual income. We're less in the business. Level 8 is team within team. This is a completely different approach. Team within team is where you have, kind of veteran agents on your team or seasoned agents, and they are now mentoring new recruits. So you're literally moving now some of the team leader responsibilities over to your top producers. You want to do this again carefully because it can distract them, right? It can reduce their production, but people want to know what's next and they want to have an environment to be able to grow. So sometimes this model can make sense, sometimes it doesn't. Really depends on your business. So at this point, we have unlicensed support, we have licensed support with our field agents, we have ISA conversion support, we have team managers, we have leadership group, and we might even have team within team. There's so much you can do to create an environment of leverage, but I encourage you to have the money to flow with the results. Have the money flow with the results. To bring in, extra leverage and support without increased production can bankrupt you. And it can do it much faster than most team leaders think. Most teams are not profitable. Most teams are covered by the team leader's production, right? They're not profitable as a standalone business. And I can't encourage you enough to get the support to make sure that if you're going to try to expand a business, you have that foundation, it's profitable, and it's going to give you a future, right? There's longevity there for you, whether you're selling, leading, or not. Okay. So, oops. Go the other way here. So leverage within a team. At this point, we have everything in place. Again, lead conversion partner, leadership group, field agent, mentor program, unlicensed admin, all those things are in place. These are an example of some, I know it sounds crazy, you're like, it's a big list. These are an example of some of the core systems that we use to support teams. And I'm not saying this to overwhelm you because you don't need them all at once and you wouldn't want to, right? High performance is all about hyper prioritizing. So strategically, what is the next most important system? That's what you need to know. What's the next most important system? Do you know what you need next? Do you know how to implement it in a way that won't break your business and won't lose you money? And do you know how to implement it in a way that is actually efficient and a sound investment for you? That's the question here. When you get into a place where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to learn 200 things, most of the time we get overwhelmed and it actually backfires. So I'd like you to look at these different lines because these are all trajectories of growth. And, we like to think that time goes on and, we're successful or we're not, right? And those of us who believe in working smart and working hard smart would say, well, I worked really hard and smart and I sacrificed and therefore I believe I'm on the gold line, right? Like I sacrifice things now to have a great business later. And the hard part, it's the difficulty here is that's not actually what gets you on the gold line, right? The gold line is not just time, it's time and choice. So are we choosing to model something with benchmarks? What does success look like for a top 1% national team? Do I know that? So when I'm implementing like conversion or I'm implementing recruitment or I'm talking about like farming or client parties, whatever, do I have a benchmark that allows me to make the choices that top 1% performers are? The reality is 99% of people, they're not willing to do what it takes to be top 1% stunningly successful. And I'm saying this to motivate you. It's not that they can't get access to it. It's not that they're not capable of it, right? It's that they're choosing not to do it. They're not willing to do it. They're not willing to make the investment. They're not willing to take the time. They're not willing to be that curious, right? So some of those people are willing to work really, really hard, but they're not willing to work hard on a path that predictably takes them to the height of business growth. And that's a problem because a lot of those people are investing massive amounts of time, energy, and money, but they're investing it into paths that predictably take them into chaos on the red line, or frustration or disaster where their business isn't sustainable as they grow. So they remain overworked, underpaid, frustrated, and to them, they continue to feel like underachievers. I encourage you so strongly, model the best, forget the rest. We're not in the information era. We know it as realtors, right? Information is everywhere. We're in the wisdom era. It's not about the script or the plan or the document. It's about the interpretation. It's about the mindset. It's about the essence with which somebody who is at a high level of performance is using and implementing that information. That's a place of nuance, right? So I want you to be honest with yourself right now. Have you vetted to make sure that the choices you're making over time are putting you on the gold line? Because it's not harder work. And in fact, over time, it's less work and it becomes easier. But then other people watch you because I hear from them and they say, oh, I was watching so and so, and wow, their business just took off. And I'm like, no, it didn't. They were consistently making choices and implementing. So I want to ask you to think for yourself, what is the most valuable idea or area that you need to implement from what you heard? You know, we just spent a little bit of time together and I want that to be valuable for you. I'm not here to entertain you. Nothing about high performance in this area is about entertainment. It's actually about choices. What am I going to choose to take action on and implement, and why? So I want you to think about that. What was important for you from our time together? I'd like you to take a minute to reflect on that. If you need some support, specifically in team coaching, you can let us know that you saw this webinar. We're more than happy to honor a discount that you're seeing this with us or with one of our friends. And we are more than happy to offer you 20% off our month-to-month coaching fees. So there's a QR code there. If you'd like to chat with us and our team, more than happy to connect with you if you need some support in building your team. And I encourage you to watch for some of the other videos and webinars that are going to support you as you grow, because strong, healthy teams, they're good for the industry. Strong, healthy teams build leaders. And leaders are people we can rely on, who have integrity, who are going to act consistently, even in hard times, based on set values. And that helps us have a positive ripple effect that I'm really committed to in our communities and in our industry overall. So if you need to chat with us, let us know. And other than that, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope it was valuable for you. And I wish you so much success building a world-class team, which is what you need if you want to have the ultimate in lifestyle and success. Talk to you again soon. Thank you.